Hi, I'm Alex from Southern Ukulele Store, and today we're going to take a look at 4 different Tonewood combinations and see what makes them tick, try and figure out what the differences are between them. We've talked at length about the Kala Revelator ukuleles before. That's this slimline ukulele here with the Nautilus sound hole. These are made by Kala in the USA. Southern Ukulele Store has kind of a regular in and out of different Tonewood combinations for these. So I've taken the 4 that I've got right now, some more usual woods, some more unusual woods. We're going to play them all and just talk briefly about their differences in the lead up to that. So the first comparison is Cypress and Pear. Now these are the 2 that people are more likely to contact me and say, well, I don't know how Pear sounds and how Cypress sounds. Can you tell me? Okay, well, I'll do my best. So these 2 ukuleles are quite similar really in terms of what they offer. They're both softwood combinations, English Pear being the most rare of the lot. You don't really see English Pear ukuleles very often. Italian Cypress is much more like cedar. You know, a very reflective wood. It has a lot of warmth to it, but truly being a softwood, a very loud, very responsive wood. And the same can be said of English Pear. This English Pear Revelator has Korina back and sides, which is an African hardwood that Kala like to use for the Revelators. And it has a Royal Blackwood fingerboard and bridge, which is a really exciting thing that I have explained wrong in the past on Revelator videos. This isn't a man-made or a technical wood. Royal Blackwood is purple heartwood that has been torrefied, which is a baking process that cooks the wood and ages it. That Royal Blackwood, you know, this purple heartwood is extremely hard now and a really good substitute for ebony. It's much more abundant as well, so it's a more eco-friendly option, which is something that everyone's always looking for in instrument manufacturing. You have a satin finish. They all have these open gear tuners, but I will just show them off anyway. And Revelators have a 36mm nut width with quite a nice wide string spacing to it. And then you have this Cypress model right here, which is a bit more conventional in approach. I will say straight away, lighter in the hands than the English Pear, a lighter, less dense wood to hold. You have Italian Cypress for the top, which has more of a cedary look to it, very yellow wood, with mahogany back and sides, more conventional back and sides. Still got the rest of the spec. It's got that Royal Blackwood fingerboard going up to a Kala ebony faceplate with the open gear tuners. So we're going to A-B these 2 ukuleles now, and then we're going to come back and talk about Korina and Koa. This is the English Pear and Italian Cypress. Let's give them a play and see what you think. Okay. Okay. Italian Cypress. Okay, so English Pear, Italian Cypress. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? For me, I like the look of the English Pear more, but the Italian Cypress ukulele, as I was playing it, felt like the more dynamic of the 2 instruments. Just to give you my thoughts, having just played them both back to back. Next up, though, we're going to look at 2 other Tonewood combinations. What we have here is Korina versus Koa. Should have said that at the start. We'll talk about the Korina one first. This is the code for it is an NSL KORT. This is a master grade limited edition Korina Revelator. Korina being an African hardwood, very, very similar to ebony, in fact. So if you imagine this as being an ebony type ukulele, a real hardwood, something that should be, in theory, less reflective, not as loud, but give you a more complex and slightly more mellow sound. If you think the harder the wood is, generally the mellower it can sound. It's not always the case, but giving you the absolute bare bones of what to expect if you're buying blind, that would be a good way to kind of judge it. The softer the wood, generally the louder it is, and the more reflective and expressive it is. That's why you see so many classical guitars made of spruce and cedar. You have a Korina body for this all over. Going up the neck, a Korina neck. It's the same spec as we're used to. Ebony faceplate, and then you have gold hardware on this ukulele with black buttons, so gold tuners. And then this particular one, very rare, has a rosewood fingerboard and bridge. So something that you don't really see on Revelators at all. It's not a usual option in any sense. Instead of the royal blackwood we've just looked at on the other two models. Then we have the Koa model. This is another limited edition one. I think it's another NSL KOAT rather than a KORT. So this is the Koa model. What makes this limited edition is that whiskey sunburst finish. Obviously that's not really going to have an effect on the sound. It's still a satin ukulele, but a really nice take on Koa. You don't normally see Koa too often with sunbursts, and the spec of this is a master grade one as well. Up there you've got the gold hardware with the black buttons. There's a Koa leaf inlay on the fingerboard in abalone, and then you have the ebony fingerboard and bridge on this model. So there you have it, two more ukuleles, different tonewood combinations to consider. Let's give this Korina model and this Koa model a play and see what you think, and I'll be back at the end to compare my notes on all four, having played them all side by side today. Before I hit record on the camera, I strummed a chord, and a good 20 seconds later this Korina one's still going. There's so much sustain from this particular wood. Right, let's compare them now. Okay, giving my thoughts on the four ukuleles now. I've just played them, recorded the sound samples, and then went through and played all four again. So the English Pear one has a more obvious mid-range. You know, if you were to play all four strings, say you're playing an A minor or a C chord, that C and that E string, they're really present. The low G is quite boomy, but not in a bad way. It's just there's a lot of depth to that ukulele. But the sweeter, higher frequencies definitely get lost. Even though you have lots of volume, it's not a bright ukulele. It's quite a throaty ukulele. If it was a singer, it would be a male singer with a fairly low voice, like a country singer. So romantically, I want to like the English Pear the most, but I think actually the English Pear is going to suit a finger picker. If you're a strummer, perhaps it's less dynamic than the Italian Cypress. The Italian Cypress one for me is the most lyrical. Like when you play it, you play melodies on it, they really stand out. When I was doing that sound sample, the melody cuts through above the low G and the C. You know, it's a very balanced, very easy ukulele to be very expressive with. And then comparing the Korina and the Koa, the Korina is more balanced than the Koa. You get the same thing from the Korina that you get from the Italian Cypress, albeit perhaps not with as much attack. So it's a much more kind of, everything is in the middle. Nothing is too loud or too boomy or too soft. The Korina is definitely the optimum wood for a Revelator. And then the Koa has, well, it's what you'd expect. It's much more harp-like. It's softer. It's sweeter. There's a little bit more bass from that particular Koa Revelator than the Korina one. So perhaps the mids are kind of dipped on the Koa one. So the Koa and the Pear would be the complete polar opposites to each other. But the Italian Cypress and the Korina, then there's not as much difference between them. I think my favourite today, having just played those four, would have been the Italian Cypress. Which is crazy because I own a Korina Revelator and I always felt like that was the wood that they should be made of. Like if you're going to buy a Revelator, the Korina is like, you know, that's like issue one. That's the one that you should get issued when you're leaving ukulele school to go and fight in the ukulele wars. You know, you should be given a Korina Revelator. But even though it's really romantic to like the English Pear, because, you know, we're an English shop and it'd be like, oh, the English Pear one and Southern Ukulele Store, it's like, there's something romantic about that. For me, you know, I ride a Vespa, so I'm practically Italian. I mean, look how much I use my hands when I talk. I think the Italian Cypress was my favourite, but I really couldn't pick a second, third or fourth based on the other ukuleles in the video. Like they all have strengths and weaknesses. That particular Italian Cypress one that we have right now, I think is really, really special. Probably the plainest to look at, but in terms of sound, if you record or you like to play and really challenge yourself, this is the ukulele that's going to give you the most reward from that challenge. There you have it, folks. That's what I think, but let me know what you think in the comment section. There's not a lot else to say today. I'm using this ORPHEUS mic again by Sontronics. We're not endorsed by Sontronics in any way. It's just they've lent us a microphone to try. They saw that we've been using the Sontronics microphone on camera for 4 years, and they said, well, look, the next one up, you should give it a try. It's going to make your ukulele sound great. Tell me what you think about that as well. I'd be very, very interested to know. Otherwise, I'll be back very, very soon.